It's been a day where football's been talked about. The national championship playoffs were announced today. But let's don't forget something in Knoxville, something that's pretty big right now. We got basketball, and both basketball teams are undefeated. The men's basketball team, they're getting ready to be ranked number one in the country tomorrow. The women's basketball team should finally get their respect and get their rankings tomorrow as well. It's been a really good week. It's been a really good year so far for both teams. Make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe. This is the House of Orange. This is Frank. Let's rock and roll on this. A big thing when I started this channel was basketball. It was basketball season when I started. Obviously, the first video was Tennessee-Iowa football, but the biggest part of the content up to that point or around that time was basketball. This basketball program, I've done plenty of videos on both. I did one. I'm going to start with the men's. I'm going to conclude with the women's here as well. We'll put them both together or try to separate them both, but I thought it was a good time to hit both of them with football being the big talking point today, and it should be with the playoffs. So the Vols are in the playoffs. Very happy that they're in. But let's get into some basketball here. Tennessee men's team. I did a video before the season. I said, is this the year for Barnes and staff? I had so many people just like, LOL, no. They're a 4 or 5 at best. I got news for you. And this is becoming a pet peeve of mine with it. The people who like to, I get, you've got to prove it. You've got to, they've got to prove it to me. At this point with Rick Barnes has adjusted to the transfer portal, to the NIL era, probably better than any, I would venture to say any coach in America. Specifically, yeah, he's a veteran coach. He's been around a while. While others have gotten out, Rick Barnes has gotten better at it. And, last year they brought in Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect was the man. Dalton Connect. And I'm a Lakers fan. I could go on right now about what they're doing with Dalton Connect. Turn him loose. Quit the bullshit and turn him loose. But with this program, Dalton Connect gone, Josiah Jordan James gone, Santiago Vescovi gone, plus the transfers. We could go on and on about that. I have. If you've listened to my basketball content, you know where I stand on all it. If you haven't, I'll link the playlist at the end. You can check those out. It's a lot of good stuff. But this program in the off season, it's like yesterday. I was with family. One of my family members was like, "Man, when I look at this team, I know Ziegler and I knew Meshack. I didn't know anybody else coming in." But you look at Jordan Gainey return, and then you had, of course, Cade Phillips has stepped up. Cade Phillips didn't play a lot last year. Cade Phillips is a prime example of you stick with Rick Barnes and this staff, they're going to develop you. It's up to you. Do you want to work or do you want to go somewhere else on it? Cade Phillips chose to stick around and get it done. We're seeing the results of that now. Of course, Cam Carr, we were seeing results of him, and then he had his injury. JP Estrella, I feel he would have been right there with him. He had his injury. He's taking the season injury ending surgery. He'll be back next year. We'll have a nice little base next year, but there's still going to be some replacement needed for sure. But this staff, with what they returned, and then you added Chaz Lanier, you added Darlene Stone-Dubar, you added Igor Milicic Jr., you added Felix Okpara. Well, how all these guys mesh together, I don't think it can be understated. And I've read articles about this as well. The effect that Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Meshack have had. You want to talk about leaders in this Tennessee program? These two guys, when it's all said and done, they won't be in the stat column or anything as far as the all-time greats in Tennessee basketball. As far as what they brought to the table, their leadership, what they put on and all they do. They're, how can I say these guys aren't on the all-time team for Tennessee? Because you need those guys who can do a little bit of everything. You don't just need guys who can put up stats on it. I'm not saying Ziegler's the best point guard in Tennessee history. I'm not saying Meshack is, one of the great. These guys are great Vols, though. They are absolute great Vols. You want them on your team. They are the reason, a big reason. Rick Barnes has set the culture. Justin Gainey, Rod Clark, all these coaches that he has with him, they're on the same page. They're doing a killer job down here. But make no mistake about it, you get those guys who are in your program, who are bought in, who are there from the time they get to Knoxville to the time they leave, like Meshack and Ziegler, they're going to help that segue, that leeway that comes in when you get these guys. Chaz Lanier, Igor Milicic, Felix Okpara, they've been there seems like since they've got there. Dubar's had a little bit of an interesting time, but now seems like he's hitting his stride as well. This basketball team, man, they're really good. It's going to be a big week for them, though. It's going to be a big week for this program, as I feel this week is going to be it's going to be their toughest week because of where they're playing. Tuesday night, 6:30, they play Miami in their House of Horrors, Madison Square Garden. I don't know, going back to, was it Bruce Pearl's last year they won the NIT tournament in Madison Square Garden. I don't know if they've won a game up there since. Maybe. They've played there a few times. I think maybe they have, but there's been some ugly performances from this team in Madison Square Garden. Miami, Tuesday night, 6:30. I'll be live with you immediately after that game. We're going to discuss it. And then next Saturday, the 14th, 5:30 at Illinois. That'll be, in my opinion, the toughest game non-conference-wise on this schedule. I expect Tuesday night to be a tough game, too. I think Miami's a decent program, plus it's in Madison Square Garden. Hopefully the lid is off of the rims this time in Madison Square Garden. But this basketball team, starting tomorrow, will be ranked number 1 in the country. Now, we know how that goes a lot of times. Normally the next game doesn't go too well. But we'll see where they're at. I like this team. I love what they're doing. Chaz Lanier has been what we've wanted him to be at this point. I hate to compare him to Dalton Connect, but, man, there's so much going on there that it's really hard to ignore, guys. I'm just going to tell you, it's really hard to ignore. And this is a video probably that would have been doing justice to break it up to give both teams their credit. But stick with me on this. Lady Vols basketball, this was their big week non-conference-wise. Wednesday night, Florida State in Knoxville. Florida State is the number 1 scoring offense in America. Lady Vols held them to 77 points. Of course, Lady Vols are 3rd in the country in scoring as well, just over 92 per game. They were up big starting the second half. That third quarter was a disaster. But you know what? The sign of a good team is you get punched in the mouth, you don't roll over. You punch back. This Lady Vols team punched back. Samara Spencer made some big shots, to me, that really kind of negated the storm that Florida State put on them. It was back and forth in that fourth quarter. And then, Kim Caldwell was not happy with Talasia Cooper in that game. Talasia Cooper, she's the Lady Vols' best player at this point. But there's numerous contributors. Make no mistake about it. When it's all said and done, that, I don't know the term. We always, with baseball, we call it the dude. All right? I know where we're at. But our main player is Talasia Cooper, women. She's the one that you want to get. We're just going to call it the one on it. She is, again, a big game last night against Iowa. Lady Vols go up to Brooklyn. They play in that the Shark Beauty Women's Champions Classic. Undefeated Iowa. Lady Vols lead with a 78-68 win. This was a good basketball team they beat last night. This Lady Vols program, big win. You know, I was so I hate that I was not able to cover it last night, but I had other things that needed. I had to go back to Tennessee. I don't live in Tennessee, for those of you who follow me. There was something more important I needed to go back to Tennessee for. Spent tonight, come back through Asheville, some more. Stopped at Trader Joe's, and then the first thing I'm getting a buggy. A lady got a buggy there, and she's like, "Hey, I had this sweatshirt." She's like your sweatshirt. She's like, "Man, that was a big win last night. Lady Vols beating Iowa." So we kind of talked going in just a little bit. It's pretty cool. That brand branches out, and this will finally be the week that the Lady Vols basketball program is ranked. Or else, let's just blow the rankings up. Tim Caldwell, Danny White tweeted out last night, whether it's actually him or somebody doing it for him, but he said, we're ahead of schedule. Yeah, they are. And this Lady Vols basketball program, they'll return to the court next Saturday against North Carolina Central. So they're off for a week. Next Saturday will be interesting because we're probably looking at 2 live shows on here. We're going to be the 2 live crew next week. Lady Vols play North Carolina Central 2 o'clock. So that game will end around 4. I'll go live. And then the men's team plays Illinois at 5:30. I'll go live around 7:30. So we're going to be the 2 live crew next Saturday. That's going to be a lot of fun. Lady Vols next Saturday, North Carolina Central at home. The following Wednesday, the 18th, they play Memphis at Memphis. And then Richmond, December 20th, which is a Friday at 2:15 in West Palm. Tulsa on Saturday in West Palm Beach. Winthrop, December 29th. And then they start SEC play. Of course, they do have one more non-conference game, and that's, the big one. Love that they're playing this February 6th against UConn in Knoxville. But with all that's going on, there's so much going on in Knoxville that's so good with football. Football makes the playoffs. That's, regardless if they go up to Columbus and lose or win, to me, it's been a good season. And, yeah, there's been frustration, aggravation, but, Tim Bradley, regular listener of the channel, known him from my other channels, whatever you want to call it at this point. Good guy on here. He said, to me, making the playoffs was success. That meant a successful season. I totally agree. Totally agree. Tennessee's in on that. Basketball number 1. We'll see where it goes in the grand scheme of things. Jimmy Dykes, ESPN commentator, said this men's team was top 5 coming into the season. They are a national title contender. Make no mistake about it. There's none of this crap of a Zach Edey out here that they're not going to call 100 fouls a game against somebody, which is ludicrous. But this basketball team's the real deal. Are they going to hit adversity along the way? Yes, it's going to happen. The SEC is the best basketball conference in America. They're proving it. They're beating these non-conference teams. They're proving it. There's no doubt about it. Key for them is going to be doing it in March when it's all said and done. And this women's team, this is a deep women's team. Kim Caldwell and her staff, I really feel like they hit on all their transfers. You're seeing Ruby Whitehorn had a tough game against Florida State. She had a big game last night against Iowa. Z Spearman was big Wednesday night against Florida State. Samara Spencer contributes. I mean, all these girls, they're contributing not just these games I mentioned, but numerous games along the way. Alyssa Latham's going to be a player down the stretch. She's had some good contributions that may be flying under the radar. She's going to be a big-time player moving forward. Talasia Cooper coming in. She's awesome. Hollinshed, Darby, Puckett, all these. There's contributions coming from so many with these Lady Vols team. We got a lot to be proud of in Knoxville. right now with these basketball programs. What Rick Barnes is doing, what Kim Caldwell is doing. Rick Barnes is solidifying himself as the greatest men's basketball coach in Tennessee history. Um, there's going to be no doubt about it when it's all said and done. The key for him is going to be getting to that Final Four and hopefully beyond with it. Kim Caldwell, it's hard to follow in the footsteps of Pat Summitt. All right. Well, she's not following in her footsteps. She has her chance to set her own path along the way. We can't compare Kim Caldwell to Pat Summitt, but we can compare Kim Caldwell to Kim Caldwell. And the lady she's coming behind, keeping with where she's going, what she's doing, her recruiting, top notch, her portal recruiting, top notch, what she's doing on the court as well. We got to be so proud right now. And we're not into baseball, which baseball to me is the crown jewel right now at the moment. I mean, they're defending national champions, but it's a good time to be a Vol. It's a good time to wear the orange. Have a good rest of your evening. Make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe. We'll be live tomorrow night. We're going to dissect Tennessee, Ohio State, and the college football playoff. Y'all have a great rest of your evening. Have a great Monday. And last but most certainly not least, go Vols.